In accordance with paragraph 1.2.1 of standing orders, the first item of business is for us to appoint our new chair. So for that reason, I'm opening the meeting. So if I can have a proposal, please, for a new chair, and then we will move on.
Brenda Massey.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a second there?
Yes, I'll second that, Brenda Massey.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have any abstentions? Any votes against? Can I take that as passed, please? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the election of the vice chair to support Brenda in her new role. So in accordance with paragraph 1.2.2 of standing orders, the fire authority may also elect a vice chair today. So may I please have a proposal? Thank you, Councillor. And a seconder? Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you. So, Councillor Davies, any abstentions, please? Any votes against? Can I take that as carried?
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Bill. You are a new vice chair.
Thank you, Brenda.
I will hand over now to my able chair.
Thank you very much. I'll try to project it because I'm conscious incredibly echoey. So please, if you can't hear, particularly people like Chris on the upper room, can you just shout the way you something? That would be great. And before we move on, I really want to pay a tribute to the work that John has done since 2017, and it's been so good working with you as vice chair. I'm sure you will appreciate just how much time is put into this and how well you support the fire authority. So, please stay on as vice chair. And I hope we can work together. We have up until now.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for your support for me. We've done this very much as a communal action, and we've all worked for each other over the last 4 years, and I look forward to that continuing over the next very many. So thank you very much for the opportunity to do my job. I'm sure Brenda will do even better. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, new Chair, and welcome and congratulations, and thank you, Dr. Davis. I just wanted to say a few words and actually make a presentation, if that's okay. Can you hear me at the back there? Thank you. So I just wanted, on behalf of the service, so Brenda has thanked Councillor Davis on behalf of the Fire Authority, but on behalf of the service, I just wanted to pay a special tribute really to Councillor Davis for his outstanding work as our Chair of our Fire Authority. And I think during his time as Chair has shown outstanding leadership. And certainly from a service perspective, I wanted to say thank you on behalf of the service for your stewardship, your wise counsel, your challenge, and for everything that we've done for the service through what was quite a difficult time, and actually was quite a challenging time for you personally, I may add. I wanted to say from my perspective personally, again, thank you for your guidance, your advice, your sage counsel, and that sounding board in order to work together to resolve the issues that we've resolved over this last few years. And I think that we find ourselves in a really strong position now as an authority and as a service as a direct result of your outstanding leadership. So, I'm going to make a small presentation. So this is the Service Meritorious Service Award. And it says on here, to Dr. Davis, for loyal commitment and outstanding leadership for Avon Fire and Rescue Service. Okay, so thank you very much, Don. Thank you very best to you. I can't shake your hand, though, what is that? So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure working with everybody in the service. Thank you, Mick. Please pass my thanks on to everybody. Luckily, I'm not the person that's to lead into the emergency. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right, for apologies for absence, we have apologies from Councillors Eddy and Councillor May. I don't think we have any others. For emergency evacuation procedures, can I just remind everyone that we're holding this meeting in a working fire station, as you're aware, and the crew may be called out at any time. If this happens, there will be a 10-9 announcement, and that will be repeated. The meeting will then pause while we allow the commotion to disappear in fire engines, and then the meeting will be resumed. Just for your information, we do not have any fire alarm testing scheduled for today. So if there is a need to evacuate the station during this meeting, you will be directed out of the rear door, and we will go straight to the back of the yard where there's a barn structure at the back. And that's where you will muster in the event of fire. The declaration of interest, there are none advised today. So I'll now hand over to the chair's business.
Thank you. Can I note in the order to the first meeting in new time, and it's our first one face to face since lockdown. So it's exciting, really, isn't it? And can I really look for our new members? I know there's quite a few who probably know. It's great to see you today. I hope you do demonstrations outside. Also welcome to James Mason, who is our authority independent person. Thank you very much. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to the Chief Farmer Officer.
Thank you, Chair. Members, it is with deep regret and great sadness that we now take a moment to remember the loss of one of Avon Fire Rescue Service's finest officers. Watch Manager Steve Angel was injured whilst taking part in a motocross event in Oxfordshire on Saturday the 12th of June, which was a real passion of his. Very sadly, he passed away shortly afterwards as a result of his injuries. Steve joined the fire service, Avon Fire Rescue Service, on the 16th of May 1988 with Bath On-Call Section, where he remained throughout his career. He served an outstanding 33 years as a member of Bath Section. He was highly respected and a highly valued member of the team there. And as the watch manager for our on-call section at Bath, Steve was a larger-than-life character with an even bigger heart. He absolutely loved the fire service and was totally dedicated and committed to public service. He served the communities above and the wider Avon area for 33 years, and he showed no signs of retiring anytime soon. The level of cover that Steve provided was second to none, one of the best in the service, and Steve viewed his role as a firefighter and that as watch manager as a vocation rather than a job. His leadership was outstanding, and he was a brilliant operational officer who was unflappable under pressure at operational incidents. Steve took a great deal of pride and personal responsibility for ensuring that Bath on-call trucks, their fire engines, remained available 24 hours a day as far as possible. Steve will be sorely missed by us all, but he will leave a legacy. Our thoughts and prayers remain with Steve's family at this very sad time. I do think it's appropriate at this moment for us to mark Steve's passing in a traditional way. I'd like to invite the Fire Authority to be upstanding if we can, and to mark Steve with the honour of 1 minute silence. Thank you, members. Thank you, Chair.
Next item, I'd really like to thank the station manager, Chief Manager and the board.
I'm sorry, Brenda, but I can't hear you.
I'd like to thank the station manager, Nick Dudley, route manager Andy Wood, and various crews at Hicks for their help in arranging the demonstrations we saw earlier today. I found them really interesting and really helpful. It's great to be able to see what goes on behind the scenes. So thank you, and we really appreciate it. I'll start. My name is Brenda Massey, and I'm Councillor of the South Meeting. We'll start with the councillors in the
Okay, sorry. Councillor Paul Doggett, I represent Parker from the Ward in the South.
Councillor Brian Hopkinson, I represent the trustees and groups in the South West District.
Councillor Ruth Jacob Smith, Sunset, Whitson Road, 60 inches.
Councillor Desmond, Councillor Councillor Lawson Road.
Adam Nunn, Wilson Ward, South West Council.
Nothing getting your board South West Council.
I'm Robert Payne, Somerset Council,
David Wilcox, Kristen Jones from Bristol City Council, representing Andrew Branch.
Andrew Newbold, who's got a very thankful
Early so different boards, South West.
Andrew Lowe, Haywood with the Church Park, Bristol.
Shelley Bromley, Western Ward, Bens.
John Ashcroft, South West Council.
Mark Lee, Bristol City Council, Funvale.
James Mason, I'm the independent person for the fire authority.
John Davis, Wilson's Council for Colour
Thank you. And can I ask the officers to introduce themselves now?
Amanda Brown, I'm the clerk to the fire authority.
Andrew Bealey, I'm the Director of Corporate Services and Enterprise Service.
Councillor Member Simon Shilton, Assistant Chief Fire Officer.
I'm Karina Haskins, Democratic Services, Bristol City Council. I'm here to take the minutes of the meeting. Emma?
Hi, I'm Democratic Services Assistant for Fire Officer.
Jack Lee, Council Manager, Avon Kensham, Bath East Somerset Council.
Claire Bentley, I'm the Head of Finance for Avon Fire and Rescue Service.
Tanya O'Neill, Treasurer and CEO of Fire Service.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Nick Reynolds. I'm the Chief Fire Officer and the Chief Executive of Avon Fire and Rescue Service.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, next item on the agenda is about Chair's business. It's about fire station campaigns. And for anybody new, this is where we align ourselves with a specific fire station. Now this has been very tricky over the last year to know. I've got a fire station just down the road from you, and I've been nowhere near it because of the pandemic. But it's really helpful if you volunteer to pair up for a particular station and go along, meet the station manager and the crews, and you also get a monthly update on the performance there, which is quite interesting because you can see how many fires they've been called out, etc. But we've still got quite a few fire stations that are still available, and it would be really good if some of the new members could come out taking on being a champion for somewhere local, and maybe some of the existing members who haven't had a fire station So Emma's got a list of the current volunteers, and I think we're going to do an action update on this one.
Yes. Shall I go through? The ones we've got failing at the moment are Bedminster, Blackburn, Cleveland, Georges, Kingswood, Lansdowne, Nailsea, Nobleway, Patchway and Bolton, and then Portishead, Radstock, Winston, Yates and Gatton.
Councillor Jansen used to champion for Bedminster. It seems I live not 200 yards away from it. I'd like to champion for Bedminster. Yes. I prefer to just do Bedminster, if that's okay.
Chair, I'd like to so Trevor Davis is now stepped down or been removed or whatever, and I was doing that, so I'd like to do Patchway, I grew up in Patchway, in fact, where we are, and the new station is also to do that. Thank you.
Any other volunteers?
We could do Lansdowne.
Then,
Chair, I'm happy for both days.
We now have Temple and Temple is now free, that's suited for me. And also Albury, one Albury as well.
I'm happy to stay off Albury or allow that to go to someone else if they would prefer it. We'd like to do that and represent that area.
we can circulate the updated list after this meeting, so members can just, we'll give a deadline date for volunteers. We will keep it under review constantly, so if you change your mind later on, I want to be a station champion, just say, but everyone will circulate the list.
Thank you. And hopefully we will be able to action. It's been visiting some stations, which will be really good.
Before we start business, if there, I know maybe you're struggling to hear, we have got some seats at the side of the room, would it help if you moved up?
Maybe.
Okay, is there anybody else who's struggling to hear? Richard, Ben, we can move a couple of people up, that's easier. I'd rather do that before we start the main business.
I'm just
Okay, good time. Yes. Richard, did you want to do that?
If you find it's going to be difficult, I'll shout at them and ask them to shout at them, or move afterwards, and we'll see what we can do.
We will try our best to shout.
We can move on. So, item 7 on the agenda are minutes of ordinary meeting, which is held on the 24th of March. Everybody happy with those?
I propose acceptance.
Yeah. May I make a point?
Yes.
I don't have any issue with the accuracy, but under item 4, it said that they will cancel their time and work to the membership, which is absolutely right. But there was a practice of giving people certificates. I don't know if it's for the full 2 terms, but I'm just wondering if I missed something, is that practice being abandoned or is that still necessary or not?
Certainly, Councillor, we've written to all the councillors who have left the authority. Certainly, we'll take a look at that. I wasn't aware of that practice personally, but that's certainly something that we can look at if we feel that that's appropriate.
Any other comments? Thank you. Point one, joint meeting of the board of governors meeting.
Can I propose that the minutes, anybody else here is from AGM? Seconded?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next one is the minutes of performance review and scrutiny committee. And I wasn't actually at that meeting because Adam was reviewing.
Adam, are you happy to propose this?
Yes.
Maximum.
I think that's nearly correct. I'm happy to propose that.
Second. So that's all the minutes.
Yes, members, this is my paper, agenda item number 10. It's appointments for the forthcoming municipal year 2021/22. So my report sets out the new membership of the Fire Authority, which is at a table you will see on page 40 of your bundle. And it states that appointments made by the Fire Authority generally last for the municipal year. That runs from one annual general meeting until the next. And there are a range of appointments that I invite you to make today. So the recommendations are you delegate to me as your clerk, in consultation with your political group leaders, the allocation of committee places, and then those committees will themselves appoint their chairs. So we can make proposals to those committees, but it is actually the committees themselves that appoint the committee chairs. So I ask for authority to undertake that work with your political group leaders. I also ask you to appoint your representative on the Local Government Association, to appoint your representative on South West Councils, to appoint your representative on South West Council's Employers Panel, and appoint your employer representatives of the Local Pension Board. Before I move on to the names that I've heard mentioned today, is there anyone who's got any questions on this paper? No? So, Chair, shall I go through the recommendations with the names I think that have been proposed as I've heard discussions going on? So, for B, appoint the representative of the Local Government Association, your chair, Councillor Massey, you've agreed to stay in that post. For your representative on South West Councils, I believe the Vice Chair, Ron Davis, has agreed to take that role. For your appointment as the representative of the South West Council's Employers Panel, ideally this is someone who's also a member of People and Culture, and I believe that's Councillor Shelley Bromley is happy to do that. Thank you, Councillor. And then to appoint your employer representatives for the Local Pension Board, I've noted down Councillor Chris Windows and Councillor Robert Pang. Is that right? For the Pension Board? Or by Councillor Pang's been surprised, so I'm not aware of it again.
Myself.
So Andrew Brown, sorry, apologies. Wrong table. Okay, so we've got Councillor Chris Windows and Councillor Andrew Brown for the Pension Board. Apologies, thank you. Okay. Can I have a proposer for those recommendations, please? Thank you. And a second? Any abstentions or any votes against?
So, can I propose increase the pay public access on the agenda? As far as I'm aware, after increase the public.
And no public access requests are received.
Right, so item
Yes, members, this is my paper number 11, entitled Member So each year at the annual general meeting, the clerk presents a paper setting out members' attendance at meetings for the previous municipal year, and also the amount of allowances and expenses that have been paid to those members. So you're asked to note my report and to authorise publication of the information of appendices 1 and 2 of the report, which set out on Appendix 1 the attendance of each member and on Appendix 2 the expenses which have been paid and allowances which have been paid. So I draw your attention to Appendix 1, and you will see green indicates those meetings that the members have attended, that they have been appointed to attend, and red indicates those meetings that they were unable to attend. Yes?
I just need to point out for the record that my fellow member of the Green Independent Group, I think there's an error on the Appendix 2 that the travel expenses were £2,007, and that's indeed a special responsibility allowance. So we can make that change. Thanks.
This starts with Councillor Lamb.
Councillor Lamb.
So I didn't stop. So can I have somebody propose?
Can I just mention as well that there's no missing in one second. Missing
Oh, is that?
it's all the G's together.
Oh, yes, certainly. Okay, on Appendix 2. Thank you. Subject to those amendments, is there a second?
Yes, we might be able to relinquish this on
Yes.
corrections.
Yes.
So it was absolutely clear. We haven't read it, but I just want to make sure we
Noted 2 corrections. So one was the special responsibility allowance should not appear in the travel and subsistence column, and also we need to amend the spelling of Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. So, moving on, yes, item 12, the final authority meeting dates and forward plan for 2021-22.
So members, again, this is one of my papers as your clerk. This paper, number 12, sets out the final authority meeting dates, which are proposed for 2021-22, and also the forward plan, which is the key documents and decisions you are going to be asked to make in the forthcoming months. You are asked to approve the schedule of meetings for the municipal year and to note the revised forward plan. The forward plan is presented at every meeting and is updated at every meeting, so that's a living document. Do I have any questions on that paper, please? I should mention one thing, that obviously whilst we've had the COVID-19 pandemic, we were allowed up until the 7th of May to have virtual meetings. That legislation whilst the COVID-19 pandemic continued, we had emergency legislation which allowed us to have virtual meetings, and that expired on the 7th of May. The government has been seeking comments on a consultation about possibly introducing new legislation. So what we are hoping to do, assuming the government roadmap continues as planned and restrictions are released, that we will start to be able to move these meetings around the unitary area, because I'm conscious at the moment they seem to be at headquarters or Hicks this location or at Sutton Park. I want to assure members that we are going to do the best we can to move members around the whole unitary area. Any questions, members, on my paper?
Next item is paper number 13, which the Treasury is to present, which is the 2021-25 Reserve Strategy.
Thank you, Chair. This is the updated reserve strategy for the period 2021 to 2025, and it's based on the previously approved strategy from June 2019. The paper outlines the updated reserve strategy, which can be found in Appendix 1, with the reserve summary in Appendix 2, and Appendix 3 shows the National English benchmarking figures. The Fire Authority are expected to provide for reserves to manage their financial position and to manage their risks. The Treasurer is asked to review the adequacy of reserves on behalf of the Fire Authority, and I can confirm that we integrate that with the annual budget setting and the full year medium-term financial plan. I'm also pleased to report to members that myself, supported by Claire, who's sitting next to me as Head of Finance, have worked very closely with SLP members over the last 6 months on reserves to make sure that is integrated with the reserves plan priorities. If we have a look at Appendix 3 very quickly, this is the national benchmark information. And this shows the top item in the Fire Authority. It shows that we are in a very positive position with our reserves. Our reserves as a percentage of core spending power was 20%. Compared to the bottom of that appendix, it's showing the national average is 39%. It's really important for fire authorities to manage their reserves appropriately so that they don't accumulate large reserves that aren't required. And it's pleasing that Avon, within this benchmark in national data, is in the lowest quartile. The risks are outlined in section 6. And recommendations today. First recommendation is for us the Fire Authority to approve this updated strategy. And the second recommendation is as the Fire Authority, once this is approved, to be published on our website. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm interested in one of the risks of the report, the impact of Brexit. Can you detail how much you allocate to and what the risk actually is?
Okay, can you just repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
So one of the risks in the report is the impact of Brexit. I'm interested in what that risk actually involves and what budget implication it has.
Okay. In terms of the Brexit, this was a discussion that we had when we put forward the medium-term financial plan. And it's very difficult to ascertain the exact amount that we need because it's very uncertain. So what we've done is we've created a general reserve. And from that, if there is any financial impact, we can allocate it to that reserve.
The main issues that we have, Councillor, is that quite a lot of our supply chains go into Europe, particularly if we're purchasing kit and equipment. Fire engine here, quite a lot of the the stuff on audit and actually purchase of the appliance itself, supply chains go quite a long way across Europe, and as a result that increases cost, or the potential for costs. We've been alive to it for some time, and certainly we've set aside contingency in order to allow us to have that flexibility if costs were to increase significantly. We haven't seen that yet, but we're alive to it. So that's why we've got a reserve set aside for it.
Thank you.
So with regards to that risk, I understand the risk. So what would you anticipate the lead time would be into the risk of a major piece of hardware? I appreciate that equipment variable, but there's been discussions about buying new vehicles such as electric vehicles, so on and so forth. So be that a strategic purchase the authority is going to make in the near future, and it's a significant capital investment. So I can't remember the figures we were quoted on the last meeting, was it? But we were quoted on it, and it was very large. How confident are we that that figure we were quoted is steady? And if that was to change, what is the anticipated lead time to recognise that change of the cost of supply due to supply chain?
The vehicles to procurement, that's part of the analysis. We've also gone to vehicles, the supply chain, security of those supply chains, and that's very much assessed at that time. At the moment, we look at the indication from equipment and fleet perspective, that is an increase over time. There is a delay in getting things across, but we're building that into the build programme. It takes about 18 months to open the plans from a equipment perspective. So we do build that into anticipated replacement strategy.
But just to clarify, we were pretty confident on the price.
Yeah, so that's all part of the price standard that we fixed on that and agree that price.
So we retain that. Identify supplier.
Yes.
Any delays in the build, and it's not Brexit that's caused any delay, but what's caused delays is COVID.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Appendix 3 shows the source reserves as a percentage of core spending account, and I see that very much at the bottom end of that. Perhaps we could say a few words about that, as whether you have any concerns that we should address in that.
Council was asking around to be bottom quartile of the benchmark, and to put a comment on that.
Thank you, Kensham. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yes, it's quite confusing, this summary, but actually this is a very positive position for the Fire Authority. This is indicating how the level of reserves that you have compared to, in effect, your annual budget. Part of the guidance that we have on reserves is to manage that and to ensure that we don't hold on to surplus reserves, because that wouldn't equate to value for money, which we're all tasked with. So if you see a fire authority on this table with a high percentage, and I don't think I'll name any names, but I think councillors will see all of the fire authorities and their percentage in that last column. If they had a very high figure, there might be a very good reason for that. But generally, if there wasn't a good reason for it, one might conclude that only 73% of your reserves might be a little bit too high. So from our perspective, being in the lowest quartile is a very positive position. And as Treasurer, I'm very comfortable with where we are with these figures. Although, of course, these figures refer back to March 2019, before I started. Nevertheless, the Fire Authority, this is a very positive position.
Anyone else?
Any comments? That gives 5,000 proposals. Can I see a vote on that, please? Agree with strategy?
Any abstentions? Any votes against? You agree?
Moving on to item 14.
Members, yes, I present to you paper 14, which is regarding your members' allowances scheme for 2021 and 22. In accordance with local government legislation, we are required to update our members' allowances scheme each financial year. That scheme updates the basic allowance, which is paid to you as elected members, the special responsibility allowances received, and also the independent persons allowance, and also travelling and subsistence allowances. I can tell you that the scheme was last substantively reviewed in 2018 by my predecessor, and therefore it is due for independent review before the next scheme iteration for the next financial year 22-23. So I'm asking you today to approve the members' allowances scheme dated 21-22, which is in Appendix 1 of my paper, and also to direct an independent review of your members' allowances scheme by no later than the 31st of March 2022. I will explain by way of background that in the intervening period, we apply an automatic uplift to your members' allowances, and that is in accordance with the Green Book Pay Award for staff. Now, the Green Book Pay Award has not yet been announced for April 21, so the rates in the document in Appendix 1 are those currently awarded, and once that percentage is released by the National Joint Council for Local Government Services, then we will update the figures accordingly. Fire authorities are excluded from the requirement to have an independent remuneration panel, which you're probably more used to in your local authorities. However, we must every 4 years have an independent review of the scheme, which must also take into account the recommendations of your local remuneration panels. So when I instruct the expert on your behalf, that person will have the information available for all your unitary authorities. So the scheme is set out at Appendix 1. It is almost exactly the same as the version we saw last year. It is just that the figures have been updated. It also makes clear, and I think this was the point raised by the Chair, that a member is paid their basic allowance and only one special responsibility allowance in addition at any time during the financial year. So if you have more than one special responsibility, so in other words, if you're a political group leader and a chair of a committee, you will only get one special responsibility allowance for one of those roles, and you get the higher amount. I'm not proposing to go through this scheme in detail, paragraph by paragraph, because it's in your papers. Members, do I have any questions? Can I have someone propose this paper, please? Second.
So I can see council those in favour. Item 15 is the 2021-24 Treasury Management Strategy, and that's the Treasury.
Thank you, Chairman. Council presents the 2021-24 Treasury Management Strategy, which again is based on the previously approved strategy by the Fire Authority. Treasury management function is undertaken by Bristol City Council through to a service level agreement. And unfortunately, the finance lead who supports this strategy was unable to join us today. I do, however, have Claire, our head of finance here, who has helped me formulate and develop this strategy with the lead at Bristol City Council. Although Bristol City Council provide all the financial policies and financial forecasts, it's important to note to the Fire Authority that the Fire Authority does have overall responsibility for the strategy. Treasury management covers a whole scope and range of items, including banking, cash flow, borrowings and investments, and it's a highly complex area. Therefore, we're very grateful to technical lead from Bristol City Council supporting us in this area of work. It's probably important to note that the Fire Authority hasn't required external borrowings for some time, largely due to the utilisation of internal financial resources, a key issue being the sale of the previous headquarters. The key principles and objectives of the strategy are outlined in section 3, page 84, and include such issues as ensuring that the strategy aligns to our strategic priorities, ensuring that the Fire Authority seeks to attain value for money and accountability. The key risks are outlined on page 92 and the mitigations on page 93. The recommendation today is to ask the Fire Authority to approve this updated strategy. Any questions?
So or possibly an operation. So obviously Bristol City Council investing in money on behalf of an option plan, regulated investment triples and so forth. Now how much involvement do you have in the movement of those funds? Is that solely managed by Bristol City Council and they just advise on it?
Yes.
So then I don't know what Bristol City Council policies on that, and I'm sure it's probably quite inclusive. But there's a there's a fund that only invests in AAA capital investments. Do you know Bristol City Council? I can't remember the funds. I can email the questions. I'll probably answer them.
That would be really helpful, yes, and I'm happy to take questions back to their technical lead. So if you'd like to email me.
Is that nice?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
I think the answer is yes, Councillor, but you're used to having it.
Any other questions? Okay, so can I have something to assist? And a second one? So 4 members. Anybody against? Any abstentions? We go to item 16. I have some.
So I'm presenting today concerning review of our service charges for 2021-22. So this was the request for approval of those charges in line with section 18A of the Fire and Rescue Services Act 2004, which allows the Fire and Rescue Authority to charge a person for any action taken by the authority with limits set out in the same legislation as section 18B. These charges are set for each financial year and must ensure that the authority's income charges does not exceed the cost to the authority of taking that action, which is covered by those charges. So the details of the action
actions, which we are able to charge for in Appendix 1, and then in Appendix 2 we have the details of the charges. So the recommendation today is to approve those charges. I can confirm that the charges are in line with the previous financial year, based on obviously knowing that at the moment our costs have been slightly reduced as a result of COVID restrictions, so there will then be a full review of those charges based on this year's for next year. Any questions?
Any abstentions? So yes.
Votes against?
Item 17 is the collaboration strategy with the forces.
Chair, after you members, it is what it calls us in the constituents room, but I speak up and anything you can't hear me around you still indicates. Members, this is a paper for your decision. Okay, already? I didn't even get a sentence out. So, members, this is a paper for your decision in respect of the strategic intent and approach for collaboration for the next 5 years in order for the strategy to be published on our website. As you will have had some indications from our demonstrations today, collaboration is at the heart of what we do as an emergency service, both in terms of how we deal with multiple agencies during incidents, but also the closeness and collaborative working of our teams, which is essential to be able to do the difficult work that we do. We believe that working together can help us achieve better outcomes for our communities and can also help us achieve efficiencies and effectiveness. The authority has a collaboration strategy for 1920, and this document will outline our achievements so far in respect of that strategy and build on this over the next 5 years. The publication of that will be for transparency for our public and also enable us to focus on limited resources. Working through the document starts with talking about what collaboration is and isn't. And for us, collaboration means working together on shared outcomes and aims for our community without an adverse impact on either of our organisation's duties. Rather than a takeover or outsourcing, which collaboration isn't, it is about achieving more or better than we can achieve on our own. The document then talks through our approach and our guiding principles to collaboration and how we select our collaborative partners. Again, this focuses on our shared aims, but also due diligence around ethos and values of organisations, which is also very important that we maintain the integrity of the quality and the service of the organisations that we associate with collaboration. The strategy then talks through our areas of focus, and we have 7 of those. I think we have 6 in the publication by out of the next since then. So our areas of focus are in 7 areas for collaboration in the next 5 years. Those are in the areas of how we collaborate with others on our operational incidents, on our training, on our sharing of our functions of data around the information, on our estates, on our procurement, on our community and building safety in the area of climate change. The document then gives examples of our current collaborations, not an exhaustive list as it would be document size, but gives you a flavour of the amount and range of informal and formal partnerships that we've already engaged in as a service. There's particular attention there to some of the demonstrations that we've seen this morning around GASIP and our association there, and our use of drones and we've been working with police on this persons. And also particular attention to page 124 in the strategy, which in particular acknowledges all of the work that we've done during the pandemic, which has also been acknowledged and recognised by our page 19.
new members may want more information on the specifics of those examples, which we may not have time to go into today, but I'm very happy to talk about those as further outside the meeting and to cover them in a future development session. The collaboration strategy then outlines our plans for the next 5 years, and there are particular areas there around our states, our joint training, and again, our joint improvement. And the strategy then outlines how we will ensure that we deliver against the strategy and our governance arrangements and collaboration, with in particular PRSC being the committee oversight for collaboration. The strategy then finally talks about how we will evaluate the effectiveness of our collaborations and in particular our plans to enhance our data collaboration in that area. In terms of the legal aspects of it, the strategy aligns with our commitments in the Policing and Crime Act and extends beyond that because the Policing and Crime Act just refers to collaboration between fire companies and police. And as you can see from the document, we collaborate with a wide range of organisations across the world. In terms of financial, there are no direct financial implications of this strategy, but it does outline the importance of the financial assessment of collaboration efforts before they are entered into, and looking at the whole lot of costing and the improvement mechanisms for that, and also to ensure that there is financial affordability, sustainability, and accountability. We appreciate that I've run through quite a large document, but the recommendation is to agree the collaboration strategy from 21 to 26 for publication. I'm very happy to take any questions. Any questions? John?
Sorry, your question? No.
We really welcome this, and we've been talking about this for a while now, but put the strategy together, and it's really important that we've been asked to demonstrate efficiency in our decision making in our services. The fact that collaboration like this, I think, is really good. I think that if the Chief would remind me, I think we've taken the lead regionally in terms of collaboration of the other emergency services.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do collaborate in a number of areas, and what is great is that we have that outline strategy, and it's absolutely clear what we're doing and what we're not doing. But we do not just collaborate with our fire and rescue services, we collaborate with the police and the ambulance, notably the ambulance service. We've got frontline firefighters driving ambulances as we speak today, which is fantastic to cover the work around COVID. We've got firefighters who are jabbing people today as a result of COVID who have become vaccinated, which is fantastic. So we do collaborate on a lot of fronts, and it's quite clear in the document. So yes, it lays out our intent, lays out the strategic intent around where we're going to go in the future, what we're doing currently, and what our ambitions are. So yes,
Thank you, Chair. 2 points. Firstly, thanks for the updated infographic. Do I take it that relates to the last financial year, or is it something slightly different? Second point, I trust that Bath will be a prime example of great cooperation with the fire stations being the
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. To answer your first question, yes, it's for the last financial year, and we do update it every financial year. Secondly, you can rest assured that a lot of work is going on around how we can make the new Bath station a multi-purpose station and multi-agency station. We're certainly deep into those conversations. In fact, we've got a conversation, another meeting on this Friday around that very subject. We'll explore every potential, but rest assured we are doing that.
I look forward to being there.
Any more questions? None of us might have something to propose as well. Cool. You have something. Thank you. So, anybody against? Anybody abstaining? So that's great. Avon Somerset Police and Fire Commissioner to join the fire.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is my paper number 18. It sets out the fact that we've received an application from the Police and Crime Commissioner for Avon and Somerset to join the Avon Fire Authority as a voting member. We received the application from Mark Shelford, who is the new Police and Crime Commissioner for Avon and Somerset, and his letter, which is his application, is the appendix to the paper. The Fire Authority are therefore asked today to determine that application, so I don't give a recommendation to you, I simply present his application to you and ask you to decide it. And I am to remind you of the legislation which states that if you decide to refuse or accept or refuse an application, but in practice it only really applies if you refuse, that you need to give me detailed reasons for doing so that I can publish those reasons on your behalf. And that's set out in the legislation. I do have a copy of the legislation with me if anyone needs to see it. So if I go through the background briefly, the Policing and Crime Act of 2017 introduced provisions which enable greater collaboration between police, fire and rescue and emergency ambulance services, and enabled police and crime commissioners to be appointed to the fire authority, which discharges the functions of the fire authority. There were regulations which were then passed, which set out how that would work in practice, and those are set out in the background papers. I should make clear that although the PCC applies to be a member, he would not receive any remuneration for being so. He would be acting in his capacity of PCC and would only receive allowances for that post. I think it is worth mentioning that Part 1 of the Police and Crime Commissioner Review was published on the 16th of March 21, and that review has kick-started, in the Home Secretary's words, their work on fire service governance generally, and we are expecting a white paper on fire reform later this year, and the government will be consulting on whether to mandate transfer of fire and rescue functions to the police, fire and crime commissioner model. Now, you may be aware that in the southwest we are in a slightly unusual position compared to the rest of the country, because the area covered by 3 fire authorities, so that's this one, Avon, Devon, Somerset and Cornwall, are actually covered by 2 PCC, so Avon and Somerset and Devon and Cornwall PCC. So that means it's slightly difficult and changes will have to be made in the southwest to enable a change over to a new governance model. I should also mention that actual meeting on the 16th of December last year, you did approve the application by the previous PCC for Avon and Somerset, a lady called Sue Stevens. She joined the fire authority, but only for the remainder of her term in office, so it's a very short tenure for her. And when you do approve one of these applications, it only applies to the current incumbent of that post, hence why we've got an application from the new Police and Crime Commissioner for Avon and Somerset. There are no financial implications of my report. I have set out under key considerations some summaries of correspondence we received from Lord Greenhow, the Minister for State for Building Safety, Fire and Communities, and he was urging us last year to consider favourably the application by the PCC at the time. So I've no reason to doubt that his position will be the same today. So members, I must leave it to you to decide between yourselves whether you wish to grant or refuse with reasons the application by the Avon and Somerset Police and Crime Commissioner to join this fire authority. Members, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
In the PCC's letter, really set out exactly what we would bring to the fire authority. Could we, rather than make a decision, ask for more detail? Would that be reasonable, or are we expected to accept because of the reading?
His letter includes the following sentence: collaboration between police and fire has never been more important in these challenging times, and this seems a good opportunity, and I hope you're likely to join. So I'm not sure what actually we get by going back for justification, but happy to take any other comments from members.
I just wanted to say to members that the police commissioner came out into my ward last week with the fire, ambulance and police service, and came round with us in the ward because we have very narrow areas, and he's very keen that the emergency services should be involved in the community, and he came out with us. I was impressed with that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I do agree with that, but I think we should go back to PCC and ask for more information, because we must specifically ask and take into consideration the scheme's attributes and local contribution that we will raise our fire authority. And I think that sentence that you put this letter doesn't really give us any information on that field. I would agree we should go back to that information.
Yeah, so, I think it's been discussed before, but I mean, I think if people are interested, we should really invite us to meetings. So you can come to a meeting and explain to us what advantages this would be, what you would bring into it, and people ask questions there and then, rather than that just being sent back and move forward. So I would prefer to see a proper meeting set up.
Can I clarify that the police department should have just one vote for any equal to the rest of the board members?
Yes, that's right. And if they send a deputy to meetings, that deputy doesn't have to vote.
Sorry, Derek, can I just ask some clarification? Is there a restriction on the number of applications a PCC can apply to the fire authority for membership, or is it just this one occasion?
So the legislation assumes that there will be one. It doesn't talk about multiple applications because it assumes that the application is made and then you determine that application once. And it also makes clear that you have to give reasons for your decision.
So I would like to understand if the PCC does serve the fire authority. Obviously, they're clearly a key part of the example of the current land under the fire authority. So where does the PCC's remit end in terms of their influence on things such as the headquarters? Because obviously they are our landlord, and so therefore, in that one particular instance, there's a conflict of interest, isn't there? And so how appreciate it's probably their responsibility, but how is that managed to ensure that makes it an enable fire authority and not enabling sunset? I appreciate that would probably be their sole responsibility, but there is consequences, there is potential consequences, isn't there?
Council, it's a very good point, and that the PCC, if he became a member, would be treated the same as every other member. So he would need to declare an interest in a particular issue, and the likelihood is he would be allowed to vote on that issue as a result of his interest. So if we were having discussions, say, about the lease on headquarters, that would be a prime example. Any questions?
I guess that feeling in the room is that we've been imposed by government to do this against, because of course it is a true collaboration at all. We did ask the question, what's the quid pro quo? Can we get an automatic signal on the police panel, which we don't do. So it's a government interpretation of collaborations to suit the political agenda from central government. I certainly think colleagues of all political persuasions which I've spoken to, both here and elsewhere in the country, are somewhat dismayed with the way it's moved forward. I guess there are two ways of looking at it, aren't there? One is we can prolong the agony, and certainly advice from the government is we should take on board. I would perhaps use a slightly different tactic, so that I would propose that we do agree, but then we can very much hold him to account as to how that collaboration and close working relationship goes, because he would be in the room just as much as everybody else with just one vote. So I would like to put a slightly contrary idea that we accept, but I think in many ways all we're going to get is the same answer. It's really slightly different from the minister, what we previously asked. I think it took us something like 3 meetings to do the initial acceptance of Sue Stevens. So my suggestion would be, and please, this is just my suggestion, there's no house behind it, is that we agree when he does come, we make sure that we hold him accountable for the collaboration example which we've just agreed about strategy. And also, there's the other very valid question we can ask, is what level of involvement have you got in fire, and what are you then not doing in your police role to keep the people of Avon and Somerset free from crime and disorder? We are charged legally to keep people safe from a fire and rescue point of view, and we're held accountable for that. But we can equally hold him accountable for the balance of his workload between what the police are doing and what he's doing in relation to fire. So that would be my suggestion. So I think otherwise this could continue for several months. And I think from the public's point of view, would be seen to be taking our concentration away from our cause, which is keeping them safe.
Somebody said earlier that they would like to ask him to appear for us to tell us what he was proposing to do. Was that a formal proposal? Not sure we must have some. Do you want to make that formal proposal?
I couldn't quite agree with what you said before. You said, yeah, I'd like to
And Don, you were proposing that we agree, but question is accountability.
That would be my suggestion. If members agree with Brian that he should come to a meeting and talk to us and tell us what he wants to do before we make a decision, then I think as long as we make that decision in a timely manner, I have no problem whatsoever with what Brian suggests. I think we need to be very conscious we do that, we then need to make a decision. So we've got a meeting in October. If we invite him to that discussion, I think we should then potentially adjourn the meeting so that he then leaves, and then we have a vote. I think we should go on the 13th of October if we're not going to do it today.
Thank you. Paul?
I'm happy to.
I was just going to say, what do you make that formal proposal on Saturday? Yeah. So, any other comments? I appreciate that new members, this is probably quite a confusing question, because it did take us a very long time to know exactly how long it was for, but it was quite a long time, wasn't it?
I think we have 2 options. What we could do is vote on each resolution which is tabled. So, I just sorry?
I think what Brian is suggesting is we defer the decision, invite the police and crime commissioner to the meeting, our next meeting, and then make a decision against paper 18 and immediately after. Is that the thing, Brian?
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. It's going to be thought about properly. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to do.
So, Brian, you're proposing that. Also, second. Can we have any abstentions, please?
It's something for the second. I'm not against my colleagues, chosen, but I've got a question regarding about the former BCC has already approved on 16th of December last year, 2020. So what's the difference in the new BCC? Because we already approved the Sullivan statements, the new one.
It's a very, very valid question. The conversations went over several meetings last year, and although I wasn't involved the whole time, so I came at the end, my understanding is that the members were asking lots of questions of the Minister of State about the role of the BCC on fire project. So lots of correspondence was going into central government and coming back out again. And finally, members decided yes, on balance, they would approve the application. I agree with you, nothing has changed since then. That's why I remember reminding members of the content of that correspondence and our paper.
Yes, there is the fact that we've had elections, so it's not the same BCC as it was previously. Any more comments?
So is it worth taking any abstentions on this paper? So on the proposed resolution, my council are concerned that we adjourn this application and invite the BCC to attend the next meeting in October to present to members his reasons why he thinks it is a good idea for him to be on the fire authority. And then we would ask him to leave the meeting while you deliberate and make a decision. Any abstentions to that proposal? Any votes against? Can we have a show of hands, please? President, are you abstention or are you?
I'm sorry, I'm finding it very difficult.
That's all right. Are you voting?
Sorry?
Are you voting for?
I'm not sure what I would be voting for.
Let me shout it again. So the resolution which has been recommended by Councillor Hopkinson is that we adjourn this paper until the next meeting in October. We invite the PCC to attend that meeting to give the members himself his reasons for making the application. Then he is invited to leave the meeting while you deliberate and make a decision. So I'm just trying to establish if members agree to that amended resolution, because it's different to the recommendations I made in my paper, so I just want to check.
Thank you for that. I'll vote in favour of the motion.
Thank you. I think that was everybody voting in favour. Okay. Thank you, members.
So that's what we will invite you to, but formally invite you to come out to the next meeting, explain to us his reasons for wishing to do this, and then we'll ask them to withdraw what we have on the date. Which I think is a sensible way forward.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Item 19 is the information item about service and pieces. So, as no questions have been sent in, I'm assuming
No, we haven't received any questions from members on the service roundup paper, so I'm proposing that we just note the paper. But if you do have any questions, I have colleagues in the room who are able to answer any questions. Are there any questions, please? No?
Simon, is there anything specific you want to point out to members?
Members, it's just a roundup of not just operational incidents, but key areas of work that are ongoing around the service. So we've changed this report slightly from when you may be familiar from previous reports to include a much wider perspective of the activity and work programs that are taking place across the service. Of course, that also includes our ongoing contribution, that the Chief mentioned earlier on, to supporting our partners and communities with the current pandemic that's still a presence and around us, and alongside regular weekly briefings that we provide you at the end of every week yourself.
So, will you please look at the notice?
Okay, and the last item on this part is the date of the next meeting, which is the 30th of October at 2 o'clock. I want to be agreed.
They need to be advanced.
Sorry. And item 21, this is about the exclusion of the press and public. To resolve that the public be excluded from meeting during the following items of business on the grounds that they contain exempt information pursuant to Schedule 12A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, and that in accordance with Schedule 12A, Part 2, Paragraph 10 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So, effectively, that means that we're going to stop things in a second. Oh, right, okay. So, can I have a proposal? A second vote? Or any objections? Any abstentions?
I think you can stop our voting.